And welcome back to the Newton Boston Pizza, where we continue our second half here, our look back at the 1996 year in review. And Steve Erickson, Terry Murray, and the rest of the crew here. And I'm Terry Murray, that's for sure. And Glenn Todd is with us right now. And Glenn Todd, the chairman of the Canada Cup, very successful women's fast pitch tournament held at Softball City every year. And last year, close to 79,000 people attended the event, witnessing some of the national teams from around the world and our own national team that went on to the Olympics.
That's right, Jerry, and it was a great event, and Canada won it.
And Canada did win it, and they proved themselves to a fifth place a couple of weeks later. You said they were a little disappointed, but they had to hold their heads up high.
Yeah, that was, the girls were disappointed at the Olympics, but that was really about where they really ranked. Fifth place was about as good as they really were.
Now, we were talking off the top of the show about the fact that the involvement with the Canada Cup organization last June, especially Olympics children. Will you be involved with them next year?
Definitely going to be involved in Special Olympics in 1997. We're going to run some type of an event for Special Olympics only around the first week of July, I believe. But they were a lot of fun, and they were a great group to work with, really organized.
I know all the dealings we had with them. The children, young and old, they were very, very pleased and very impressed, never mind with the organization. They couldn't say enough about it.
Yeah, they were honored to be able to play. I think it's the first time Special Olympics had ever really been involved in a major event, and we were glad to have them, and we'll certainly have them back.
Well, we just take our health for granted, Terry.
Our health, yeah, definitely slipping as we get older, that's for sure, Steve. We're going to now and look at some of the highlights from the Canada Cup tournament. We followed the opening ceremonies last year as well as a couple of games, and we've seen two Canada teams win. So we're proud to be there for those highlights. Now let's have a look back at the 1996 Canada Cup.
And got
there's one well hit and a fine catch. Oh, she dropped it. She dropped it out there in center field. Holly April, and we talked earlier, what would that home run competition? Having a run in quite a ways, dropped it, but we'll see what they score that.
You know, it was an outstanding effort by April. She reached out, and the thing is that as soon as the ball hit her glove, her elbows hit the ground.
We've got one out. We're in the first inning. Nice bunt right up there. They're not going to have a play at all. Great bunt by Paris, Washington, and Canada with one out. They have runners at first and second. So Brian Colsey.
If it's a ball right at one of the outfielders, it's going to be a tough play.
There's one hit to short to throw the second in time. That'll end the inning as gets it over to Tiff. We played one half inning here at Softball City, and we'll have another look at that.
Ground ball to Tootle, sits in front of it, has easy second. Flavor. You know, and I think the thing is that, you know, with an international tournament like this, Croft, is that, you know, people only get to play against the international teams every few years or something, and team players, no matter what country they're from, and they don't get that same opportunity to see them every day.
Yeah. You're absolutely right, Brian.
It's really good, though. Team Canada working aggressively on some of these situations right now.
Right up the middle, base hit. 2 runs are going to score. Well, maybe not. Pauline Maurice with a great throw from center field to get it out the out at home. And let's have another look at that one, Brian.
Benedict just grounds a single right up the center, bringing home crease in the pinch runner. Mindy Jenkins is flying around from second base, but Maurice throws. Great throw to Flemmer, and you see she has herself up the line to make Jenkins have to go all the way around and behind her to try and reach home plate.
Well, hit ball the second. Oh boy, the crowd loves this here at Softball City. Team Canada tying it up. Karen Dell up now. Great opportunity. You show. Gotta go to third. Takes the lead. First pitch to Murray. And could drop. It does drop. Crowd here at Softball City.
Tell you what, the adrenaline's flowing.
Team Canada has improved their record to 5-1 here at the Canada Cup. The crowd on their feet, Brian, and really Team Canada, the difference in this game, they made less mistakes and they didn't make many. Here's another pitch.
Well, she had her on a full count, just a little too close to tank, and the thing is they've been aggressive, got caught with 2 strikeouts looking in the last inning, but the big thing is that, hey, you know, Team Canada, they put the ball, they didn't make the mistakes physically or mentally on the error end, and that was the difference.
And welcome back. There's a view of our Boston Pizza atmosphere as we're here in the Newton Boston Pizza for our 1996 year in review. The chairman of the Cup, Glenn Todd. And Glenn, you look at some of the highlights there, you see some great softball action, fast pitch action.
That's right. Canada had a great game there. And they got some breaks.
They did get some breaks, and geez, it was really impressive to see the ladies, the way they throw the ball around the bases there, and the hitting is just a real high skill level. Now, the Canada Cup itself, it's been running for 4 years, and there's a bit of a rumor around town that we might not have it next year, only because there's some preparation needed for a possible World Championship. Years.
At the moment, I said I was going to take a year off, and I didn't tell anybody why, but we're going to bid for the World Championship in 1998, and if we get it, then we'll probably just wait for 1998, but I am getting a lot of pressure from the country.
The Canada Cup is that the group of, or the core of volunteers assembled over the last years, they have stuck with you through thick and thin, and they're really dedicated. They want to come out and help out, as proved at the anticipation for next year.
True. We started out in 1983 with 20 different committees, 20 different chairmen. 19 of them are still with us today, and about 350 volunteers that have been there since day one. I mean, that's pretty dedicated to an event, and without them we could never do the event, and maybe they deserve a year off.
Take a bit of a break now. I think we're going to go up to the bar area, and Jason Littlecoat has a question for Glenn Todd.
Actually, Terry, we've moved down area now, so I've got a softball fan here, Elda Dunn, and it's like ask the question.
Yeah, Glenn, with the growing concern and the growing interest with the women's fastball and softball, what do you think the possibilities of a professional league being with the women?
I did hear that, and there's that's just started. This is going to be their first season. I don't know how they're going to do, but there's about 6 teams. And they're going to start playing in May.
Elda, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it does answer Elda's question. Now, what would be your favorite sports moment of 1996, amateur or professional?
Actually, I got up and watched the Olympics when Team Canada was playing at, what time did it start, 4 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning? And I really enjoyed that.
That's softball?
Yes.
All right, back to you, Terry and Steve.
Glenn, you said a lot of pressure from a lot of the other countries about having this year's Canada Cup. How does that weigh on your mind?
Well, they really like it here. The countries will tell you this is the best tournament in the world, and they want to come back. And you know, we're kind of happy that they say that, but work. And 1998, if we get that event, it'll be a lot more work. countries are really putting the pressure on me, and I'll have to decide here in the next few weeks what we're going to do.
They really enjoy themselves when they come here, I take it.
Yeah, Taiwan, they've now even come over here just to practice and use Softball City as their North American base, and that's really saying something about the facility too. They think this is the best place to practice, and they're even bringing younger teams over now that, you know, those Asian teams got a lot of money, not like us poor Canadians, and they can do that. They brought a 14 and under team over here in the fall and stayed for 2 weeks just to practice on foreign soil. So that's they really do like it here.
Okay, talk about the facility itself out at Softball City. A lot of our national team players, Chick Kennedy, when he was involved with them, he was telling us that they really love this overall complex. It's something that possibly we need more of in Canada.
Yeah, it's the only one that's in Canada, Steve, and I guess I was instrumental actually in getting it built. And but there's lots of them in the U.S. and but the countries that come from around the world, they really think it's great, and it's a great setting in the trees, and it is it's really put Surrey on the map as far as softball is concerned.
Yeah, it sure has. And I'm really impressed with the grounds people keep the overall condition of the diamonds, as well as the hospitality for everybody that works out there.
Yeah, really, it's for a few, and there's only a few. You know, it's owned by a non-profit organization. I don't own that facility as much as people think. I volunteer like many others, and they do a great job of keeping that facility up.
Volunteers. It takes a lot of volunteers to run that Canada Cup, and we talked about a little bit about how much volunteers are required for the World Championships. If you do become successful in the bid, even the Canada Cup, if you want to have that Canada Cup, if it's possible, is there a number that volunteers can get a hold of you at to help out?
Not at this time. We actually closed our office last fall, and so I really don't want a lot of people calling my house. But if we go ahead, we'll have our office up and running, and we'll have a phone number. And yeah, it does take a lot of volunteers, and it's volunteers make that whole event go, as I said earlier, and without them, it wouldn't go. And there are some great people involved in the Canada Cup.
Now, we were talking earlier on as finish that the national team had down in Atlanta for the Olympics, put on a very, very strategic show, but I was disappointed because the American team basically went into seclusion and they didn't want anybody to know what they were up against.
Yeah, the Americans did, and I don't know if it was good or bad for them. I really thought China was going to win myself. I really did. I thought China had played hide-and-go-seek more than the U.S. had. At least we had all the good American players at every Canada Cup, except this year, where they went into seclusion, and China had done the same thing. China's got some great players, even though they got a small base country. There's only 250 players in China, but the Americans were just too good.
Coaching staff, big change for our national team, probably because of the fifth place finish?
I would say it was a fifth place finish. Canada actually won the Pan Am Games in 1984. You know what happens when you go downhill, the coach goes first, and I think it's a good change. They weren't allowed to be involved in the game, and I think it's a good move to get some new people in, and hopefully that Canada, they got to the year 2000 where the Olympics are in Australia, and there's some good young players coming up. Maybe we'll fare better.
Glenn, on behalf of the 79,000 people plus who attended the Canada Cup last year, thank you for your efforts. Volunteers need to be thanked and patted on the back every once in a while. A good job with the last 4 years in the Canada Cup. Good luck with the bid for the 1998 World Championships, and possibly this summer for another Canada Cup.
Great, thank you very much for having me, and we look forward to something coming, maybe.
Glenn Todd, the chairman of the Canada Cup, has been our guest. Now let's take a break and move it over to our other set with Matt and Don.
Thanks, Terry and Steve. We're now with Rick Inrig. Rick is the director of the Surrey RCMP basketball tournament. Did I? Very well. And he's also on the All-Star Committee for BC High School Boys AAA basketball, and past president for Basketball BC. Quite a handle you've got.
You've got it. It's been busy, but it's a lot of fun.
Okay, now one of the things that I wanted to ask you about was about year in high school basketball. What were there any surprises over the last year for 96? And then later we'll talk about what's coming up for 97.
Okay. Surprises, I think certainly the BC boys, the championship ball game, I think was a big surprise to see Kits advance as far as they did and get to the final, and not only get there, for the first time in years, a Vancouver City public school ended up winning the championship. So it was definitely a surprise, but maybe Kits don't think so, but I think the provincial scene certainly saw it that way. But it was a great accomplishment for a team, and well done by all the players and Randy Coots and his coaching.
For 1997, do you have any predictions? Like, how do you see the year going? Like, who's going to come out on top? I know that the competition this year is very tight. It's a lot closer than it's been in a long time.
I agree. I think there's some outstanding teams at the senior level again this year, and to predict is pretty difficult. Terry Fox are playing very, very well. Kits have got all that experience. They're back. Even though they've just dropped in the rankings a little bit in the last week, don't count them out. Richmond are a very, very accomplished team as well. Vancouver College are strong. There's teams that you could name right down the top 9 or 10 teams, I think, if they all come up on the right night, can play very well. So I think it's going to be just whatever team arrives at the end and the playoff time right at the championships, who's hot, and if they're playing well, they're the team that'll take them through.
Let's talk a moment about the tournament that you're involved with, and that's the RCMP. It's in its 6th year in Surrey, and it's one of the preeminent boys tournaments here in the Fraser Valley. Would you care to describe what the tournament format is and why the RCMP is involved?
Certainly. We became partners with the RCMP a number of years ago, 7 years ago to be exact, when we started to look at it, and then we started the tournament the next year. They wanted to become involved just to help us in terms of, or we wanted to help them get involved with students in Surrey and the schools in Surrey, and we've developed a team format that I think is second to none. There's about 500 athletes participating. Both the high school athletes participate, and the grade 8, 9, 10 junior boys and junior girls participate in a tournament that we have that they're able to compete in, and I think it's just an excellent showcase for basketball. And it's helped, I think, the growth of basketball in Surrey.
What are some of the stronger participating this year?
I think the real surprise team that you're going to find in the high school scene, quite frankly, a team that surprised late in the year last year around playoff time was the QE Royals, and they're going to be right back. They're a team that's got a lot of young students that have come up from William Beagle and a couple other of the schools. They're going to be tough. They're going to be extremely tough. Earl Marriott, again, are going to be a very good team. You got teams like, I'll have to say Johnson Heights because I'm there, but that's not me doing it, but I think they're going to be okay, as well as Princess Margaret, and one other would be Guilford Park. There's going to be some surprise teams, and we're looking forward to an excellent tournament again, and we'll see who goes well at that time.
Okay. And of course, we're going to, as we have with all our segments here at the 96 Year in the Review, we're going to take a look at some of the highlights from the 1996, beginning in January. Actually, we'll begin with the RCMP tournament that we held.
Good shell as well. Lansma puts it up quickly and goes up for two. Big lead, 2-point lead. This is the second time in the ball game that MEI has led. Looks inside, back out to Nelson. He'll put it up for three, and he gets it to fall. And our first three-pointer of the game goes to number 22, Joel Nelson. Oh, nice inside. Basket to end it for Cross at the buzzer. Now he goes Quinto. The Frank Kurt Hornets coming out victorious. And Gill right into Yarwood. He'll have to put it up. He does get it to go. Right. They go inside for the Morgan. Wow, look at Morgan. And look at the Terry Fox bench. Wow, what an impact. Ram Gill, here's Ram. Puts it up for three. No! And this game is over.
Those are those three-point shooters they're looking for. Good to try them now.
Terry Fox actually heads for the basket. He's in there, and he's fouled. He'll go to the line. Very aggressive.
Well, that's his third shot, laying it up down that lane. I guess they want to make sure they're not down more than 10. They're going to get the last shot.
point lead. Schmidt, and it's not called. All over now. The Fox Ravens will go number 1 in the Fraser Valley. As they win the North Division, they were in the regionals, and now they win the Fraser Valley Championship.
Jekyll drives to the basket himself, puts it up, and gets it to fly. At the ball, 41-39 to Jekyll. They keep that full-court press on. Here's McDonald.
And I see the Holy Cross coaches there calling for ball reversal, and it won't.
Barkowski ties it up. Way over here to Bills. 3-point line. Number 10. Kristen Whitney. We're tied at 50. McDonald will put it up. We're all tied. 64-64.
I'm not sure he's going to get a shot.
One at the buzzer! And we're going overtime.
Holy Cross did a tremendous job of pressuring the Jekyll on that.
He'll take it to the basket. Wouldn't go anyway, but he fouled Bergstrom above the line. The Chaucer! Oh, that basket would have put him in front. Chaucer all knocked away. Diakovic, Triple Valley, 34 seconds. There's the shot. That'll be right there. That'll be the shot that ends the game. Right there. 2-1-0. It's over. The Jackal wins the game. And it's 1996. Woo!
It's over the top without causing contact. Another three-point attempt.
Yeah, beautiful shot. He is really feeling it now.
Kicks it out to Parsons. Eskilson. Turnaround jumper by Miller. Floats right off the glass. Nice shot.
Yeah, he really used all the glass there. Didn't even have the handle on that luggage, but somehow he managed to get it over and he steals the ball again.
So once again, with Lede with the steal, and he'll pull it back. And now the minute to go. Monroe, the first lead, maybe from early in the first half.
Gives them a 5-point lead.
6-5. There's a steal. Watch out. They want to foul there. That was nerve-wracking. And they're just going to let the clock run out. Good shot by Miller, but they almost threw that one away.
They did their best to give it back to the Ramblers.
Boy, oh boy.
And as you can see, those were some of the highlights of the 96 basketball season at the high school level. And although all those games, in fact, were the boys' games, my most memorable game was calling the AA Girls Championship up at Port Coquitlam, Lambert Park, with a 5-point victory over Dutchess Park out of Prince George. Rick, how important is it that basketball is shown on the community television level?
I think it's done a lot for basketball. I think with a number of things happening in basketball throughout the province, I think just the fact that they are showcasing those kind of games, I think is really an outstanding feature. The kids love it, and I think the parents enjoy it, and I think it's just great to be able to see some of the basketball, the quality that's played, whether it's at single A, double A, triple A. It matters not. I think just the fact that you are showcasing a game a week, I think is a tremendous step forward in helping develop high school basketball.
I mean, I'm personally thrilled to be involved with the coverage of the high school basketball. While we've got the moment, our next coverage will be on Sunday, January the 5th. It'll be Terry Fox versus MEI, a repeat of last year's AAA Fraser Valley Championship. You're a co-coach of MEI. What do we have expected for that game?
Well, it'll be a tough one. Richard Morgan and Antwi, the players that are playing for Terry Fox, are extremely accomplished athletes. They played on the summer program as well, the provincial team that went down to Vegas. They are very, very good athletes. They're an excellent team. It'll be I think they'll be very, very quick. They'll be running at MEI. MEI's been a team that's developed well. They're a young team, and they seem to be doing very well at this point in time as well. So it should be an excellent ball game.
And as well, we'll have high school basketball coverage each and every Sunday at 3 o'clock, and that will also include the final of your RCMP tournament, and that'll be on January the 19th.
The coverage will be, yes.
That would be the coverage, yes.
The actual game is on the 18th if you want to come out and watch it at Johnston Heights. Rick, I just was wondering about the level of participation, the attitudes, and things like that. If you've seen any change in that since the NBA's come to Vancouver.
I think there's a tremendous amount of interest in basketball that's grown as a result of the NBA. I think the issues related to more kids participating, trying out, wanting to compete and be with teams. An example, even our own school this year, probably at all levels, we had up to 60 kids trying out, which we have never had that number at all levels. And it was something to see, just to see that change. So I think there's been a big change. I think the fact that they've been very much involved in helping coaches develop. They've been involved always offering services to be available to help in the development of coaching and in the player development. So the Grizzlies have been a very community-oriented organization that just doesn't exist in most pro sports. They have really taken it. Stu, I think, has done a tremendous job along with Brian and the crew there, and it's been great for basketball. They're very much a partner in development.
So are we likely to see a great improvement in the skill level of players over the next couple of years then?
Well, one would hope so. It's difficult to know whether that's going to translate, but I think with the greater interest in the changing game, I think, yes, you will see more players that can go on and play at the high levels.
Once again, we have Jason Lidicote standing by for another interview or another question from one of the patrons here at Boston Pizza.
Actually, I've got one of the employees here. It's a hostess, Jen McGarver. She'd like to ask a question.
I was just wondering, who do you think would do good? It's going to do good in the boys and girls AAA basketball tournaments this year.
Who's going to do good? Well, I think we kind of touched on that a little bit. Certainly, I think, again, you could talk from any of the teams that are ranked. I think the rankings are pretty darn close to what's happening right now. That may change. But when you've got the teams that are out there competing, it's, just look at the rankings that are every Thursday in the province, and I think you're pretty well going to see the teams that are going to be there at the end, unless there's some big surprises that come along the way. So not a direct answer who's going to be the best, but I think it's a pretty clear indicator at this point.
Okay, now what would be your most favorite sporting event of 1996?
Like what happened?
Yeah.
Probably Donovan Bailey winning the gold medal.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Well,
yeah.
Back to you, Matt.
Well, we can't say that we covered that at Rogers community level, but again, we here at Community 4 do also cover the world-class events, and not just the local community events, but focusing back to the basketball. I've been told that it's been a number of years, almost 15 years, since high school basketball has returned to community television on a regular basis. And is there a reason, perhaps, why there has been such an absence, considering Vancouver is a hotbed of high school basketball?
Boy, I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that one. I just think that the community, I think Rogers and others who have been more supportive in terms of helping get that program on TV and more visible, I think the program's always been there. I think basketball has improved a lot in the last few years, and I think the fact that maybe there's more interest that has brought about that need, or I guess request from outside for people to be able to see it and the game be showcased. I think the game is a great game and a lot of fun, and the kids seem to enjoy it a lot, and I think it's a great game for spectators.
For those players who do have the opportunity to play at a post-secondary level, how important is it to have a television cover their teams and, I guess, their actions as an athlete?
Well, that's a good point. I think probably that helps with visibility, so that they could film games and they could send those films away to places where they would want to be seen. It gives coaches locally at the universities here an opportunity, and the colleges, to be able to see the kind of athletes that are playing. But you got to remember, you're only showcasing certain ball games, and believe me, there are some outstanding athletes and outstanding teams throughout this province that will never be showcased, partly because of location or because of other reasons. And I think that we have to recognize the great job that I think coaches are doing and continuing to work with young people and making them better at their game. And I think that's a real tribute to what's happening throughout the province.
You mentioned the summer program where you took the provincial team to Las Vegas. Can you tell us a little bit more about the provincial programs that go on at Basketball BC level, or the summer programs?
basketball, BC have programs at the under 15 level, the under 16, the under 17. Actually, at just about every level right now, it goes beyond that as well. But the Vegas program is basically they have an under 16 and an under 17 team for boys and girls that they go through a process to be identified. Once they're identified, the top 10 or 12 athletes from each of those age categories will go down and compete in what's called the Nike Invitational Tournament, which is held every year in Las Vegas. It brings together well over 100 teams. Certainly last summer when I was down there with the teams, the coaches from all over the major colleges throughout the United States are there. They say basically last year, the week we were there, they thought 70% of the top athletes throughout the United States and Canada were at Vegas for that week. So you can imagine the talent that's there, and a tremendous opportunity for our athletes to compete against the very best. And after a game or two down there, our athletes rise to the occasion and compete very, very well.
Just before we go, do you have a list of or a list of dates of the high school championships and perhaps anything regarding the BC Summer Games in Burnaby this summer?
Well, you would make it difficult for me. The high school championships are in March, the second week, I believe. I think it's around the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, somewhere in that neighborhood. But other than that, I can't tell you the exact dates. We'll just sort of hope we get through the season, and hopefully it'll be another very exciting finish as it's been in the past, and I'm sure it will be. I think the talent's there, and I think it'll be a fun time.
Okay, and so we've been talking with Rick Inrig. He's the chairman of the RCMP tournament here in Surrey, one of the larger boys basketball tournaments in the Fraser Valley. And now we're going to swing it back to Steve and Terry, where we're going to talk a little bit about curling.
Well, thank you, Matt, and thank you, Don, and great basketball talk. I love basketball. High school basketball is always on my plate at home. I look forward to some of the basketball coverage this year. Fred Vanderpeer is here right now, and Fred, Royal City Premium Curling, that's where it's at right now in the Royal City. I really enjoy curling. I had a couple of opportunities to curl, even whole years, as a matter of fact. Enjoyed it. A lot of other people enjoy curling out there.
Curling's a great game. It's a lot of fun to play. Anybody can play it, young and old, and there's no reason not to have fun with something like that. It's a great social sport as well as competitive sport.
Curling's the only sport that actually, Terry got fired at. They wouldn't let him be a skip or third anymore. They said, no, you're off the team. Okay, the growth of curling over the last few years, it seems to have grown in bits and spurts, but at the younger age level, I think they really need a little more development and focus on the youngers.
Yeah, we're definitely in need of a little more development with the younger people. We had a big spurt of junior curling growth at one time. Now we're running into a bit of a lull. It happens in all sports. We're always looking for juniors who want to come out and play, whether you have experience or not. I mean, you can come out to the Royal City Curling Club, and we'll teach you how to play, and you'll have a lot of fun doing it.
Well, it's like you were saying, it's a real good sport because you can get it, you've got mixed, you've got men's leagues, you've got women's leagues. Now, the growth of curling over the last few years, it's taken some pretty drastic changes.
Yes, curling is definitely starting to take a professional-like turn. 10 years ago, the potential for money winnings was probably about $100,000, $120,000. Now it's well over $1.4 million.
The McDermott St. Lawrence Securities Royal City Premium Curling League. Did I get that right?
That was pretty close.
You could probably correct on that. You do have a sponsor involved in the Royal City Premium Curling League. Some of the people involved as well, you can maybe mention the sponsorship first and the people involved and some of the titles they shoot for.
Great. Jim Tartaglio and Conrad Pimskern from the McDermott St. Lawrence League. Thank you very much, guys. You've been looking after us well. That extra money has really brought the McDermott's League into more of a professional caliber. The money winnings, of course, are greater. It's more appealing to a lot of the competitive players, national quality players that we have in the Lower Mainland. And thanks, you guys. Thanks a lot. Thanks to Dean Geiger, too. He's the president of our curling league, and he works really hard.
Okay, let's talk about playoff format. They start the playoff format. They play in their own host association. Where do they go from there, and how do they advance, for example, to the Scott?
Well, we're not going to go to the Scott unless we do an actual drag thing. We're going to have to work our way to the Briar. But we start in a local in a zone playoff, which 16 teams in 3 zones go to a Pacific Coast playoff. 4 qualifiers from there go to a provincial playoff, and the one winner out of that proceeds on to the Brier. With the ladies, they have 9 districts. You win your district, you go straight to a provincial. The team that comes out of the provincial after a round robin goes to the Scots Tournament of Hearts.
And Steve, by the way, Scots is for the women, and we are interviewing the men's curling here. So,
well, that's okay. They all curl.
Let's take a break from the questions right now and have a look at some of the highlights. This actually is from last night, from some of the men's curling highlights. And last night, one of the ends we covered.
Now he understands.
Leroy Anderson throwing either.
Leroy seemed to be a little inside. They called him right away. Looks like he was by the guard. What a curling shot. Oh, a beautiful shot.
What a curling shot. Is that any good?
What a curling shot. We've said that a lot of times tonight. We're going to be saying it a few more before this game's over.
All right, Jack.
Leroy Anderson with a circus shot.
Come back to it.
Lovely
That's all right.
shot.
It'll come through there. Just come down. Just...
This is Wayne's first stone. He has another one to come. Of course, Ken McCarlow will throw following this one.
Easy. Just for line, Jack. Come on, line.
Sweepers sweeping hard for line. Third man, Jack Van Barberson, has got him hammering it all the way down the ice. Oh, and he got his inside roll, and he didn't get second shot out of it either. Jack Van Barberson throwing his hit. Controlled weight takeout.
Hurry hard.
They're hitting this thing early and hard. Great job by the sweepers and a great curling shot.
Nice little roll.
And now he understands the kind of trouble that thing can get him into. And it's going to boil down to one rock, and that's going to be his and Rick's. I think he's very close. Al Romer is very close. Great shot. Terrific shot. Another one. See, that guy deserved to be All-Star second in the Brier. Brent, of course, a very confident curler. He's going to, I would think he's going to play tight, very tight to the fore, eh?
Make sure, guys, make sure.
He's out there. He's got a lot of room. I don't think he's as tight as he wants to be.
Take a look.
He's got a lot of rotation. Looks to me like he's just going to catch a outside corner of the 4-foot circle and sit on the tee line, if not past the tee line. This is not a good shot. Well, actually, it's not that bad. I didn't think it was going to stop quite as soon as it did.
I didn't either. He was out there, though. He knew he was a little farther out. He had to pick up his weight. It was a well-thrown rock, considering what he had to do with it.
Had a lot of rotation. The sweepers got on it early, and it didn't pick up the curl as soon as it needed to.
So he's playing the hit and the roll. If he doesn't make the roll, he's giving Brent such an easy shot for the win. That's the problem. Rick seems to have gone a little bit out on that. He yelled, whoa, right away. And that rock's not coming back yet. Brent Pierce now, in-turn draw for the win. Brent is cleaning it right now. You know, he's awful close. He's not moving up. He has no line. But great weight. Brent Pierce makes a draw to the 4-foot, the 11th end to win the game over Rick Pugh.
Welcome back. Fred Van de Peer is here with us, the, well, I was going to say commissioner of the Royal City Curling League, but you don't really like to be called that.
No, I like to be called sir.
Sir, attaboy. Listen, there's not a lot of beers out there. This is pretty serious stuff.
This is pretty serious stuff. Like I said, these are national level. A lot of these players are national, international quality players. For instance, Brent Pierce, who you've just seen on the tape. They're a great team. They're traveling hard on the World Curling Tour. They're winning a lot of games.
Brier last year was held up in Kamloops at the Coliseum up there. The people in the Kamloops area have done a very marvelous job putting that on, and I know sold out every single match.
Yeah, apparently there was over 100,000 people for the week. It was a first-class event. BC has become such a curling-oriented, like curling has grown so much in BC. And it showed. It just basically in the fans that were there supporting the Brier, yeah.
Okay, what about professional curling? Do you ever see the possibilities down the road where we could have an actual professional organization?
Yes, I definitely see the possibility for professional organizations. It's already pointing that way. Of course, we have Mert Bodnarchuk right now, Anaheim Earthquake Curlers for Hire. They're going out there right now. They've got a small league put together with Jeff Stoughton, Kevin Martin, a few guys involved in this. A lot of high-profile players involved in this, and it may go, it may not. It is going to happen in time. I don't know if we're ready for it or not yet.
Fred, you talk Brier, and just listening to you talk the stairs to the Brier, you talk qualifiers, Pacific Coast, provincials, and then you get to the Brier. It's a long ways to go, and it's got to be hard on some of the players when they finally do get there, and they got to compete at that level.
It's exhausting. A lot of players, the big dream is to get to the Brier. Once you're there, mentally, a lot of them aren't ready for it. A lot of them are exhausted, and of course, perform not quite as well as they hope to. It's a huge dream. It's tough. It's tough to get there. I mean, there are a lot of teams out there playing for it, and the Brier is the biggest show on ice.
I guess the biggest thing with any event that you do put on, sponsorship is very instrumental. Tough to go to a Brier, or do the people, they fund their own?
Yes, you fund your own. Sponsorship is not allowed in the Brier. You cannot actually wear a sponsorship, so you're basically funding your own way through playdowns. Of course, your local organizations, after you qualify, will help your team.
Yeah, but with this level, why would they not allow funding?
Great question. I personally, I kind of have a bit of a problem with that. It's more of an emotional struggle. I think curling has always been, this has been an amateur event forever, but we don't have any defined guidelines between professional and amateur. We have curlers who go out there playing the Olympics, playing the Brier, and win $250,000 in a season. Is that amateur? I don't think so.
Pointers don't get any tobacco companies to give you any sponsorships in the country, that's for sure. If you're going to get the sponsors. American cities must have this sponsorship in their curling leagues.
Well, it's kind of irrelevant because they're not as near as good as we are up here in Canada anyway. So America's not really an issue. But yes, they run a little more on the sponsorship. Of course, it's a very low-profile game in the U.S. So in that respect, it is still a little bit tougher to get sponsorships.
These players that perform at that level, they don't just play once every couple of weeks. They've got to be playing quite a few nights a week. What would they be playing in the Royal City Men's League?
The players that play the World Curling Tour are playing basically at least 2 to 3 times a week, and the Bonspiel 2 out of 3 weekends. They're out of town. They're there enough. They're out there enough so their wives and girlfriends are a little disappointed in them.
Steve, we're going to wrap this up. Any last questions from you?
No, I think the game has changed drastically. You've got to get more people involved in any curling game that I've ever gone to watch. I'm the same as you. Some of the areas are a little bit, monotonous to watch, but when you get down to the house shots, right for the nitty-gritty, it's a very interesting game.
Now it is a game of centimeters. At one time, it was a hit game with the free guard zone rule. You're not allowed to hit for the first 3 rocks, of course. It's brought the game into a finesse area around the 4-foot. It's much more exciting to watch right now, and the beauty thing is I kind of want to throw this in with Rogers' help and of course their support in airing our games in McDermott St. Lawrence, as well as our Curling Weekly show that we have on the locker room. Our support is getting higher and higher. The players know that Rogers is supporting, Rogers Community Forest supporting the league, and there's more interest in the players that want to get in there, and it's bringing the caliber up, and players are coming from farther around to play this thing. So thanks very much to you guys from Rogers Community Forest too.
Fred, all the best in the new year, and it was a pleasure working with you this year.
Thank you very much, and all the best to you guys, and Merry Christmas.
Fred Van de Peer from the Royal City Men's Curling League has been our guest. Now let's take a break at this site and go over to Matt and Dawn.
Thanks, guys. Great job with Fred, too, by the way. And we're now with Kendall Matheson. Kendall is the Athletics Development Officer for SFU and also acting as the Assistant Sports Information Officer since James is away. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me here.
Now, First of all, if you can just start for us, just give us an overview of SFU's 96 year with last year's results and the start of this season, how it's gone for SFU.
Well, with SFU, it's the 95-96 year was last year, and now we're currently into our 96-97 year. I guess we can start with our women's basketball team. We once again went to the Nationals for the 7th time, and we came 7th there. Women's swimming, we came 6th overall team-wise. Our swimming and diving, men's swimming and diving came 3rd. Wrestling, I believe, came 6th. And when you look at this year's results, 1996 for our 96 and 97 season, we've had a really good season so far. Our women's soccer came 1st at the NAIA National Championships, and that was their first win in their 2nd try ever. And our women's cross-country team also won. And so that was pretty exciting. Our men's cross-country team came 10th, and our men's soccer team came 5th. So far, 96 has been pretty exciting on the hill.
And you've mentioned just before we came on camera with you that SFU has the most awards of any NAIA team, is that correct?
That's right. We have the most team titles of any NAIA school, and that's with 31. And there's 350 or so institutions in the NAIA. We are the only Canadian school in it, and we are sitting number 1 with 31.
Now, of course, as you mentioned, that as a Canadian institution in what is 349 other American colleges and smaller universities, what attributes to the success of Simon Fraser?
That's hard to say. The only thing I can think of is we have some great Canadian athletes and we have some great British Columbian athletes.
And does it also help that you're able to market your programs throughout Canada, whereas maybe some of the other colleges might only market to a very small and limited geographical area?
We do market throughout Canada, but I have to say that a majority of our athletes do come from British Columbia. I know our women's soccer team, even the lower mainland alone, they get a lot of their athletes from there. Women's basketball has been very successful throughout Salmon Arm and into Kelowna, that area. Men's basketball, we do draw from Ontario as well as the other team sports, but I think a majority of our athletes do come from British Columbia, and we've got some great talent here.
Let's take a look at some of the highlights from 1996 in SFU sports, and they come courtesy of Rogers Burnaby. The producer there is Dan Rogers, and play-by-play by Kevin Cady.
Over to Scott. Scott looking very, very calm and confident in that point guard position. The number 1 spot. She finds Mulholland. Mulholland wanted to go inside to Aiken. Instead, she goes way over to Nikki Johnson, just inside. That is a 3-pointer. For Johnson, it looked like she might have been just inside the line, but they said 3, and 3 it is.
Nikki Johnson's definitely set a fire underneath herself early into the second half, Kevin.
Well, that gives her 11 points on the game, Jim. She is tied for top scorer. No, sorry, Eva Aiken has pulled ahead, but that's great to see. And there's Lisa Brightshot falling short. The rebound grabbed by Megan Scott. To Mulholland. Mulholland lines up the 3, and no, it doesn't go. The rebound grabbed by Angela Mangan. And this is Lindsay Brooke trying to go all the way to the hoop and lost it, got it back. This is Coop now. She cuts into the middle, throws up the jumper, doesn't go. Rebound grabbed by number 9, Angela Mangan, and it's back to Coop. Her shot is short, and this time Grahovic gets it to fall for the Vikes. Mangan being a force there under the hoop as Victoria managed to grab 3 of those rebounds before they finally connected for the points. Lily Grahovic doing that for them, and this is Mulholland inside. Aiken can't get it over number 9, Angela Mangan. She gives it to Coop. 43-31 is the score. 14 minutes to go in the game.
Okay, and we're returning with one of the sports information directors at SFU, Kendall Matheson, and again with SFU, that it is a Canadian university competing against American colleges and universities. What are some of the other programs that the Clan offer, or the Klansmen or Klanswomen or Clan in general offer for their varsity athletes?
I think I like to use the word clan because it covers both our men's and our women's programs. We have 18 sports for both 9 for men and 9 for women, and there's men's and women's basketball, there's softball, men's and women's soccer, wrestling, men's and women's swimming and diving, cross country, track and field, and I don't think I've left any out.
And of course, besides some of the fall success that SFU has had, and that includes in the cross country and the soccer, another program, or at least one that I'm familiar with, is the women's softball that they play out of Softball City. So even though it's in Surrey, it's another successful program, and quite a few of the ladies on the clan, in fact, are national team members.
They are national team members, and in fact, our head coach is also, or was also, the assistant coach at the Olympics this year.
What about the coming up in January? You mentioned there's some things that are going to be going on up on the hill. Why don't you fill us in about those?
Well, like I said, our women's soccer team came first, so they're finished. Women's cross country is also finished, as is football. They had their winningest season since 1992. They went 6-4 this year. So we've got a whole new slate of sports coming up. We've got men's and women's basketball in full swing. We also have softball and track and field coming up in this spring.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit about some of the, if we're going to come up there and watch SFU sports, can we see any prominent athletes that may go on to professional levels?
I think you will. With the creation of the Women's Basketball League, the ABL, and with the WNBA next year, you might see some of our athletes in there. I know we've had some strong female basketball players. If you want to find out all about SFU athletics, you can phone 291-3200. That's our clan hotline, and you can find out all about our highlights of the week's games, and you can also find out in the schedule what's upcoming.
What would you say would be your personal, what you're really looking forward to in the next couple of months? What one event?
For SFU, well, I'm really excited about our women's soccer team this year. I think it was a great feat that they did, as with our women's cross country. I'm looking forward to, I'm a track and field buff myself, but I'm looking forward to all our sports, I have to admit it. What I'm really looking forward to is SFU winning the Sears Directors Cup, which is given to the NAI school that has the best overall program. And right now we're ranked #1 after men's and women's cross country and men's and women's soccer. It's on a point total. Stanford won the NC2A division last year, and we came second, and I'm hoping we're #1 this year.
And we're going to take a moment now. We're going to take a look at some of the football coverage, and that again occurred this fall up at Swangard Stadium. And once again, that's courtesy of the Burnaby Rogers, producer Dan Rogers, and Kevin Cady with the call.
So Anderson will punt. Let's take a look at that last play. Just a great effort by the defense as they get Sagalis and wrap him up. 27, as you said, with the big play. A little bit of a high snap, but Anderson is going to run with it. What happened? Now he kicks it on the run, and that is just a great play by Anderson.
Great play by Anderson. You saw the pressure coming right up the middle. 3 Wildcats came in. He couldn't. Took off and ran with it for the second time this afternoon. And then the great kick, and was able to keep the kick in bounds and got a good roll as well.
35 yards on that kick.
Can't complain about that. They didn't lose anything
Going
there.
full stride and getting a kick that still travels 35 yards. Anderson just brings a great dimension to the game for SFU.
Yeah, brings that athleticism to the game. And he's a threat back there to make anything happen.
And now SFU's defense is going to have to get in tough. There's Fournier right to the pass right off the bat. And breaking tackles. That was number 11 for the Wildcats, Josh Woodard. He was wrapped up before the first down, but broke some tackles and ends up picking up close to 15 on the play.
Yeah, the Clan are back on their heels, and Central Washington is in.
And those are some of the highlights of the Simon Fraser clan taking on Central Washington this spring in football action. Again, Kendall, what are some of the other athletes that perhaps once they finish their tenure at Simon Fraser will move on to either a national level or perhaps again at the professional level?
Well, if you're talking football, then you're probably talking Doug Brown. He was our outstanding athlete at SFU this year. Lineman, he's had many NFL scouts come and look at him, and he was voted our Columbia Football Association Defensive Player of the Year, so we're really excited for Doug.
And once again, we've got Jason Lidicote with a question from the floor. So, Jason.
Yeah, I've got a question. Grizz and I want to know if the SFU will ever be amalgamated with the NCAA. There was a possibility of some rumors happening last month about that possibly happening.
You know what? I really don't know. I can't comment on it. I know there are some rumors, but I'm sure it'll probably come out in the new year. Mike Dinning, our Director of Recreational Services and Athletics, is going to the NC2A conference January 11th, I believe. I hope I'm not dating that. And from there, we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Now, it's possibly maybe if UBC and SFU will actually play each other, maybe even the CIAU?
Will SFU go to the CIAU if perhaps the NAIA dissolves, or at least the Northwest Conference?
I'm not sure about that, but I know that we do value our competition against the Canadian schools. We do play UBC and UVic several times in men's and women's soccer and men's and women's basketball, but I'm not sure where we would go from there.
In fairness to Kendall, that she might not be the most qualified to answer that, and in fairness to her, she's giving us our most politically correct and tactful answer. But to at least inform our viewers, in the SFU division of the Pacific Northwest Athletic Conference of the NAIA, some of those teams, and that includes Central Washington, will be moving on to the NCAA Division II quite likely in a year's time, and that may leave SFU without a conference. So they are certainly looking at Division II or perhaps the CIAU.
Well, I know I can tell you that our football team will be going as an independent against several schools from Washington, Oregon, and California. I know that we've already have that in the works, and I think we even have our schedule made up for that. So I know that our football has a place to go, that's for sure.
Okay. Jason, did you have anything else to ask?
No, I think that's it.
Okay. Don?
Kendall, maybe you can tell us about the education at SFU and how important education is. I mean, how athletics mixes with the education up there and how important that is.
I know our student athletes really value both getting an education and being able to develop their athletic skills. Obviously, I think the figure is 90% of our student athletes do go on to attain a degree, the ones that finish their 4-year program in athletics. So that tells you right there how we value getting an education, in addition to completing our athletic careers.
And you were mentioning the placement where SFU stands right now in ranking for the Sears Cup. And is there any academic awards for schools as far as grade point levels that maintained by athletes?
Mm-hmm. We have NAIA academic All-Americans, and that's usually people that range from a 3.5 to a 4.0. And in fact, in the next week or two, I have to get our football NAIA academic Americans in. Our grades come out on Monday, so we'll find out then.
Okay. And we have been speaking with Kendall Matheson, who is the Assistant Information Director at Simon Fraser University. And we're going to take it right back to Steve and Terry for what will be our wrap-up here at the 96 Look at the Year in Sports.
Well, thanks, Matt. And here, you and I were talking about who won the Canuck game last night, and we forgot that we're coming on the camera here, but it's been a good show today, Steve.
It has a lot of fun, and the question was asked of us with Jason was back there. They wanted to know which one was a Grizz.
I think the hairy one was.
I was wondering why you didn't have your arm around him. I thought he was your idol.
Good, interesting questions, Jason, out there.
Well, thank you. I've enjoyed it tonight, and it's been a great year in sports for Surrey and the rest of the Rogers Community Network that we've had out there, and I expect to see even more in 1997.
Steve, 1997, I really look forward to the All-Star game there, BC Hockey League All-Star game in Langley. Some of the fans out there, if you don't already know, we've mentioned it throughout this broadcast, January the 15th.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday night at the Langley Civic Center, and of course, we want to go out and cover as much sports as we can next year. That's our goal. We want to try and promote the amateur athlete, every chance we can.
Every chance we can. The amateur athlete, they were the ones responsible, not only the athletes, but the people involved, the volunteers, the parents, the coaches, making professionals who they are today, that's for sure.
Isn't that the truth? And of course, coaches can come and go right now all they want. Don, move in beside us here. Interesting year, and you want to go out naturally and cover more sports. Very interesting.
I do. A lot of fun was had by me this year doing color commentary for lacrosse. So it was really exciting for me because lacrosse is like a big deal with my family and things like that. So that was really fun. I'd like to do a lot more of that, that's for sure.
Matt Ross, a big basketball fan yourself. What do you look forward to this year for winners in the BC High School AAA boys?
Well, I can't necessarily comment because of my officiating status. But
you're fired.
But I'm certainly thrilled that Rogers Community 4 has taken the ball, as you were, and decided to go with a weekly game coverage. And I think it's about time, for my limited time out in the West Coast, that a Canadian market will feature some of their high school athletes, in this case basketball first. I guess what I am looking forward to this coming season in '97 would be the continuation of the Game of the Week feature, and that'll start with lacrosse in the spring, football in the summer, and probably maybe even college and high school sports, and not just basketball, beginning in the fall of '97.
We look forward to it, and of course, we at this time would like to thank all the volunteers at Rogers Cable who come out and help everybody out. And Steve Erickson, congratulations to you on your efforts throughout the year. I tell you, you're one busy individual, and good luck in '97 to you and everybody else. And Jim Reese, our production staff in the vehicle there, and special thanks to him.
Well, I guess it's ironic. This time of the year, the biggest thing we have to remind everybody is, please remember this time of the year, don't go out and drink and drive. If you're going to drink, at least get a ride home, take a taxi, do it sensible.
Oh, hopefully you've enjoyed our 1996 year in review show here for Rogers and the rest of our production staff here from the Newton Boston Pizza. I'm Terry Murray. Good night from Surrey.
Meals for the production crew provided by Boston Pizza. Come and get it all at a Boston Pizza location near you.